Good morning, kids. So in the previous class, we discussed about prehistory and history. We also discussed that the archaeologists, they study about the past using different sources of history. Here, sources of history means the material remains used by the people in the past. So kids, now here you can see a word sources. So what do you understand by this word sources? Here, sources means the clues which are used by the historians and the archaeologists to study about the past. As you can see here, these sources of history, that is the material remains used by the people, are divided into two categories, and they are archaeological sources and literary sources. Again, this archaeological sources is divided into three subdivisions, and they are: first one, inscriptions and edicts; second, monuments; third, coins, artifacts and other objects. And here in the case of literary sources, again these are divided into five subdivisions, and they are religious literature, secular literature, biographies, travelers' account and chronicles. So we will be discussing them one by one. So first, let's discuss about the first division, that is archaeological sources. Now here the archaeological sources are used by the archaeologists to study about the past. Archaeological sources means the material remains used by the early human, like coins, pottery, jewelry, buildings, monuments, writings on stone, writings on clay tablet or the writings on metal tablets and so on. So the archaeologists, they use these sources to learn about the past. As we know that the prehistoric period have no written records, and these sources helps the archaeologist to study about the prehistoric period. So this was about archaeological sources. Now this archaeological sources is again divided into three subdivisions, and they are inscriptions and edicts, monuments, coins, artifacts and other objects. So let's discuss them one by one. So the first one is inscriptions and edicts. So what do you understand by these two terms, inscriptions and edicts? Here, inscriptions means writings on rocks, pillars, palaces, temples or the clay tablets or metal tablets and so on. So these are the writings. And edicts means an official order issued by a person who is in authority. For example, in the early days, the kings, they used to issue their orders by writing their orders on the pillars. So this is known as edicts. Now these inscriptions, they give various informations like the name of the king, the period or the duration of his rule, or how far the empire was extended, and many important events that took place during that period. Now these inscriptions are also known as reliable sources of history. Now why do these sources are known as reliable sources? Because we get them in their original form. That's why we say them reliable sources. So this was about inscriptions and edicts. Now here you can see a new term, and the term is epigraphy. So what is epigraphy? The study of inscriptions is known as epigraphy. Once again, the study of inscriptions is known as epigraphy. So we know that inscriptions are the writings on rocks, cave walls, palaces, temples, clay tablets, metal tablets and so on. Now the next subdivision is monuments. So what do you understand by monuments? The old buildings of historical importance, or we can say old buildings of the past that reminds us of any great people or any important event, are known as monuments. Once again, monuments are the old buildings of historical importance. So there's an example. Another example is the stupas and the temples constructed by Ashoka and Gupta dynasty. So these are the two examples of the monuments. So this was about monuments. Now the third division is coins, artifacts and other objects. The archaeologists, they have found many objects like tools, weapons, coins, seals, ornaments, pots and pans and many other objects. So these objects helps in studying about the past. Now here you can see the picture of few coins. These are the earliest coins used in ancient India and they are known as punch marked coins. They are known as punch marked coins. Now these coins were made up of silver, lead, tin, copper and other material. So you can see these coins are in different shape and you can see different symbols on these coins. So the early coins, they were known as punch marked coins. Now here you can see picture of seals. Now what do you understand by seals? They are small, short stone or metal tablets with some writing or symbols on it. So these seals were used by the people of the Indus Valley about 5000 years ago. So this was about seals. Now here you can see a new term and the term is numismatic. So what do you understand by numismatic? The study of coins is called numismatic. Once again, the study of coins is called numismatic. Now here you can see a term artifacts. Now this is also one of the subdivision. So what do you understand by artifacts? Artifacts are the works of art by hand. That means early humans, they used to make these things by hand like pottery, jewelry, statues, tools, weapons. So all these are known as artifacts. And these artifacts, it tells about the cultural life of the people in the past. Now here you can see an example of artifact, that is a portion of sculpture found at Takshashila of Kanishka. Here sculpture means a 2 or 3 dimensional form or object, and Kanishka was an emperor of Kushan dynasty. So this example is of an artifact. So we discussed about archaeological sources and its 3 subdivisions, and they are inscriptions and edicts, monuments, coins, artifacts and other objects. And you can see the second division of sources of history, and that is literary sources. You can see here literary sources are again divided into 2 subdivisions, and they are religious literature and secular literature. So we will be discussing them one by one. So first, let's understand what do you mean by literary sources. Here, literary sources, it includes all types of literature, whether it's long, short, written or oral. Now here you can see a term cuneiform. It is an ancient form of writing style. It's an ancient form of writing style where you can see the letters are thin, long, wide at one end and narrow at the other end. So this is an ancient form of writing style. Now these literary sources also includes manuscripts. So what do you understand by manuscripts? These are the recorded events or memories written by hand. So early days there was no printer and people used to record everything by hand. So the recorded events and memories written by hands are known as manuscripts. Now they wrote on rocks, parchment, leaves, bark of the birch trees, clay tablets and later on paper. Here this parchment means the skin of a sheep or goat, which is used as a surface material to write or paint on it. So early humans, they used to write everything by hand, and they used rocks, parchment, leaves, bark of the birch trees, clay tablets and so on. So this was about manuscripts. Now the other forms of literary sources are books, religious texts, biographies, accounts of foreign travelers. Here biography means it's an account or life of a person written by another person, and accounts of foreign travelers means the experiences and memories shared or written by a foreign traveler. So all these things includes in literary sources. Now another one is even oral history is considered as a record, and this oral history, it can be in the form of folk tales, song, myths, which are passed from one generation to another. So all these things comes under literary sources. Now as I told you, literary sources are divided into two subdivisions, and they are religious literature and secular literature. So first we will discuss about religious literature. So all the writings that are related to religion are known as religious literature. For example, Vedic literature. So Vedic literature, it consists of 4 Vedas, and they are Rig Veda, Sam Veda, Yajur Veda and Atharva Veda. So these are the 4 Vedas. And then the 2 epics, and they are the Ramayana and Mahabharata. The second one is the Bhagavad Gita and the Puranas. So these are the 2 religious literature. Now here, epic means a long poem that is derived from ancient oral tradition, which is passed from one generation to another. So it's a long poem. So this was about religious literature. Now the second subdivision is secular literature. Here all the writings which are not related to religion comes under secular literature. For example, you can see here the book named Arthasastra. This was written by Kautilya, and this book contains all the rules and advices on how to run a government. So this is an example of secular literature. Then this secular literature also consists of accounts of travelers. As I have already told you, the experiences and memories shared by a foreign traveler is known as accounts of travelers. For example, you can see Megasthenes. He was a Greek ambassador to the court of Chandragupta Maurya, and he wrote the book named Indica. Another example, you can see 2 Chinese travelers. Their names are Faxian and Wensang, who came to India to study about Buddhism, and they wrote their experiences in India. So that was about accounts of foreign travelers. Next one is chronicles. This also comes under secular literature. So how will you define chronicle? Chronicle is a detailed written record of important or historical events in the order of their occurrence. So we know that all the events that happen, it happens in an order, and chronicles are the detailed written record of some important events that took place in the past. So these are written in an order. For example, you can see the book named Rashtarangini of Kalhana. So here Kalhana was a Kashmiri Brahmin, and this book, that is Rashtarangini, it contains the details of the kings of Kashmir during the 12th century. So this was about the chronicles. Next we have manuscripts. Manuscripts are also included in the secular literature, and as we have already discussed that manuscripts are the recorded events and memories written by hand. For example, Talapatras, it is a manuscript and it is written in Sanskrit, and these manuscript, it gives details about ancient India. Now these manuscripts were written on perishable material. Here perishable material means the materials which are likely to decay, and because of this reason some of them were destroyed by insects and by natural calamities. But Rest of them are preserved in temples and monasteries. This was about manuscript. Now there is another source of history which is known as oral history. Actually, it is the historical record based on personal experiences and opinion of the speaker. For example, folk tales, songs and myths. Here, myths, they are the traditional story that involves historical events and supernatural beings. So, these are passed from one generation to another orally or by word of mouth. So, this was about oral history. So, in this chapter, we discussed about the sources of history and the subdivisions. Now, let's discuss about geographical location. So, kids, geography also played an important role in shaping the history of the world and India. As we know that India and its neighboring countries, they are known as subcontinent because of the same topography. Now, here topography means the arrangement of the natural and artificial physical features of an area like mountains, deserts, plains, plateaus and so on. So, we know that in the north, the Himalayas, they act as a natural barrier and the country is surrounded by water on all the three sides. And then we have the passes in the mountains which acts as routes to travel and to do trading. And in grade 5, we have discussed that many foreigners, they travel these sea routes to reach the coast of India for trading purposes. And in the ancient time, the people, they used to settle near rivers like Indus, Ganga and Narmada. So, this was because the river provided water for the people's need and the land near these rivers were fertile and this helped the people to cultivate different types of crops and it also helped in transportation of goods and people. So, kids, this geography also played an important role in shaping the history of the world and India. So, in this chapter, we discussed about the sources of history and its subdivisions. That's all for today. We'll meet in the next class. Thank you.